However, they could be taller, they could be a little shorter. The true brothers are not these, what are called the grays, the bug-eyed idiots. That's what I call them. They're absolute idiots, and they are, I don't use that word, but they are, and they're clones. And they have no soul whatsoever, and they have no compunction whatsoever about hurting us, and they do. And they were given the go-ahead by the Truman administration to take whatever citizens that they wanted for experiments. And in return, they would get different kinds of weapons. Remember, World War II was still happening at that time.
Right.
And we kept our word. We should never have done that, but we did. And these Greys did not keep their word, and they're still taking human beings. And there are abductions. These are not the space creatures that I'm talking about. I don't even call them human beings or beings. They're just not. This has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Who I'm talking about, because there's been all kinds of information out there about, the horror stories of this, and it's just not at all. I'm not saying that the Greys haven't done terrible work. They have. However, the true Space Brothers are literally messengers from God. They are kind. They are loving. They are masters in their own right. I don't use that word easily. They are literally at least on the fifth dimension of consciousness and higher. And I refer to them kind of like as a lump of coal that stuck to their job and became a diamond. We're still a little bit on the lump of coal area. Not you and I, and not maybe the people who are listening to this segment, because just by the virtue of the fact that you're listening this length of time says that you are a soul that most likely is more highly evolved than other people, which is a good thing. So the issue here is that these beings come from other planets and moons in this and other adjacent solar systems. They've come here to help, groping humanity in their divine ascent forward and upward. And they're here to help us to not make a mess of our life. They have stopped, I know this for, again, my fact, it doesn't have to be someone else's fact, for a fact that they have stopped World War III from happening many times by people putting their finger on the button, and then that finger was taken off that button.
Right. I remember having a conversation years ago on television with Dr. Carol Rosin, who was there with Werner von Braun, and how she talked about missile silos have just been disconnected.
That's right.
Inability to move forward when they were pressed to go, suddenly out of nowhere. I just wonder, is it Space Brothers or is that the hand of God? It's hard to know the distinction here. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, the Space Brothers act as a messenger of God. And they act very quickly. And God has asked the Space Brothers, the true ones, that look just like us, to intervene, because very honestly, there was a planet in our system, I think I may have told you, in Maldek, and it was long time ago, and it blew itself up with nuclear and atomic power, and it messed up the entire ring of planets, because every planet is in its circular trajectory around the sun, its rotation around the sun. And we had to bring Pluto in, the planet that is now Pluto, in to fill that space. And the people from Maldek came to this world, and some of them were very bad, some of them were good. And they landed on what is now called Atlantis, or what was to be called Atlantis, and it wasn't at that time. It was called Quilla, Quilla, and it had even changed its name to Atar. But the Maldekians had a continent on Maldek called Atlantis, and then just renamed it. And so the Atlanteans are back, essentially. The really good ones are back also, but the bad ones are back, and they're re-remembering what it is they've anciently done. And so some of these people are being confronted by the Space Brothers upstairs. And the Space Brothers will not permit, they can do this, they will not permit any planet, especially Earth, because we're the lowest planet in our system. They will not let the human beings here on Earth destroy Earth, because it's going to hurt all the other planets and the moons in our system, again. And they're not going to allow that to happen. And so they're going to do everything possible to stop the proliferation of agreements to destroy each other.
How do you hold in context your connection with Jesus, for example, Yeshua, and yet in the same context be able to comfortably talk about the Space Brothers and how they're helping us? How are their roles different?
They're not different. They're just doing something different but the same purpose. The soul that is now, that was called Yeshua ben Yosef, Jesus the son of Joseph, is the highest being. It's literally next to God. And among other things, he has total control over a solar system. And so his name right now is said to be Sananda. Sananda, Sananda. And he definitely is the Christ, definitely. And so the Sananda consciousness literally is in direct connection with those that are the good ships and the ones that pilot those ships, and they take instructions from him, who gets instructions from God. There is no difference.
Do you agree that we're in what's called the end times?
Yes, I do.
Explain what that means from your point of view.
How can I say? Every civilization that has existed more than 200 to 300 years comes to a decline period. That's usually what happens. And we've been in existence now as the United States for about 250 years. And we're going the same way as Rome. We have very, very many of the same anti-attributic, I just made up a word, anti-attributic symptoms as ancient Rome did. We have the same symbols. We really do. We have the eagle, we have, colosseums and so forth. We have the same kind of government, a senate. The issue is, however, is that Rome also had a decadent society, very, very decadent. And, last time I talked about the Ten Commandments, and I said, look, they're not 10 suggestions. And if you look, and if you were a really good student of Rome, they broke every one of them. They broke every one of them. And so I'm saying here we have to read them again and make them first. In every one of the great world's religions, those 10 Commandments, they really are one way or the other. But we don't listen to them. And so there is a time now, and it's been foretold in so many of the historical times here, the historical moments of prophecy. I think in the last time I told you that I had already counted that there were, 12 or 13, I talked about the Hopi and the Inca prophecies, the Mayan prophecies, Sir Isaac Newton, Ching, Mother Shipton, the Bible codes, the Great Pyramid, the Bot Project, Casey and Nostradamus. They're all pointing to the same date of 2012, and some of them are even more specific, and they talk about December 12th. The Mayan calendar and the Bible codes specifically say December 21st, 2012. They're very specific. Now, there's something that's happening there. If they're that specific, something's happening. And so you and I have realized, all of us, those of you who are listening to this, you realized when you reincarnated here some decades ago that you would be in a time that would be very meaningful for humanity. And I said to you, my closing words in the last session was, be not afraid. Not a hair is going to be ruptured or taken away from your head. And so there is going to be, as far as the end times are concerned, I think I covered this last time, what I call rockin' and rollin'. Absolutely, there will be more tornadoes, more earthquakes, more volcanoes. I mean, look at Iceland. Iceland has 2 major volcanoes now. The one that erupted a month ago or so, there's another one, they call it a sister